this is Tamika Hall, and I'm really excited about this new series on the Hollywood Network called Write the Vision. This series is based on my book, Write the Vision, How to Publish Your Christian Book in 10 Easy Steps. And I wanted to bring a series online so that I could affect the entire world. You know, I'm really excited about having my book. If you want to pick up the book, it is available online in bookstores. It's available on Kindle. But I also wanted to bring a series because my vision is to touch ministry on an international basis. And so I wanted to talk to you out there that you know that you're an author, you know that you have something to say, and you just really have no idea how to go about that. So this series is actually an extension of my book because there's only so much that I can say on paper. I love being able to talk. I am definitely a talker, and so that's what this series is about. So this very first episode is going to deal with the business side of ministry. Let's talk about the business of ministry. So you've decided to write a book. Number one, let me debunk the myth. I'm sure that if you have thought about writing a book, either you've spoken with somebody or you've read online, and you've seen this phrase, are you author material? People have tests out there, self-assessment tests, that are supposed to help you determine whether you are supposed to be an author. Here's the deal. I feel like those things are a bunch of malarkey, okay, to say the least. If you have something to say, if you've ever tried to find something in a book and number one, you couldn't find it, or you found it and you felt like you could answer it a better way, you are author material. If God has given you a word and that's burning deep inside of you, guess what? You're an author. Now here's what separates you from being somebody that's just somebody that has a vision to somebody that actually becomes a full-fledged author. The author writes it down and they make it plain. Just like in Habakkuk 2 and 4 where it says, write the vision and make it plain. So that's what you need to do. So stop saying that you're not an author. You are an author. But what we're going to do, we're going to take you from being somebody that simply has a little tiny concept and we're going to balloon it and turn it into a book. I've been very fortunate. Since my write, I have written over 10 books. I've kind of lost count because now every time, I'll tell you, you can't just write one book. I don't think God gives us just one book. First of all, He sure enough didn't give me just one thing to say. I mean, I think you figured that out. I am a talker. My dad tells me all the time. But He didn't just give you one thing to say. So once you finally jump the hurdle of the first book, guess what? You're going to have so many more books to write. I can promise you that. So let's talk about that. Number one, we've dispelled the myth. If you have something to say, you are an author. You are the author material. Now let's just really break down what the business of ministry is. I felt like it was really important for me to tackle this in this first video. This series is going to tell you, I'm going to give you assignments. Yes, honey, you too will have homework assignments. And you won't necessarily turn them into me, but you have to be accountable to yourself because guess what? At the end of the day, as an author, you are accountable to yourself. You're the one that's going to motivate yourself to get up in the morning or to stay up late at night to finish your book. So yes, I'm going to give you some tools to help guide you along the process. But let's talk about this business of ministry. Business of ministry. It almost sounds like it doesn't even tie in together, but guess what? Book publishing is a $30 million a year business, okay? It is a business. Guess who makes money off of publishing a book? The printer makes money because they actually take it from a manuscript and they actually turn it into book form. What you see here is a book. This was the first draft of my book, Meet Me at the Altar. It now looks totally different now. So this is my first book, my first fictional novel, Meet Me at the Altar. Okay, well, let's talk about the business side of ministry. Oftentimes I have authors who will say to me, listen, I'm not trying to make money from my writing. I just have something to say, and that's good enough for me. Okay, first of all, that's crazy talk. Just like I just said that people saying, are you author material or not? It's crazy talk to say, listen, all I want to do is just get my ministry out there. Okay, that's fine. But there's a business side to it. If you really don't want to take any type of finance from the book that you spend hours laboring over, okay, that's fine. That's fine. But guess what? The Bible says that a person is worth their hire. So if you've written a book, then it is perfectly okay for you to set a price to it that is going to help you fuel your vision. Because once again, once you write one book, you're not going to stop at just one. I don't believe God gives us just one masterpiece, especially when it comes to book publishing. So this is my first book. Let's talk about the business side of this. Now, this is a Christian fiction novel. And for me, it was ministry because I was always told, I actually had a pastor say to me, I'm going to pray that off of you, that you stop reading romance novels because it's just not reality. Guess what? Maybe they didn't read the Song of Solomon because that is the most beautiful romance story ever written. So I wrote this book as, first of all, for ministry. I wrote it for entertainment. I wrote it because I love fiction novels. But let's talk about what went into that. When it comes to the business side of writing a book, you have to create a cover. Okay? Statistics say that you have about 8 seconds to capture the attention of somebody that wants to buy your book. So you have to make an appealing cover. This was the first cover, and it was published back in 2006. I've since changed it because times have changed, and I've changed that. So you actually have somebody, if you don't know how to design covers yourself, somebody else is going to have to design that for you. So that's that. Let's look at the back of the book. Once again, you have 8 seconds. So the person looks at the front of your book. They flip it to the back. Isn't this what you do when you go into the store? And then they read the copy of that. If you're not good at writing copy, then you're probably going to contact somebody that can help you with that. Now listen, I'm going to teach you how to find ways to do all of this stuff economically, but I'm just explaining to you the business side of it, so don't get scared. Let's talk about this little thing down here, this barcode. The barcode costs money. This little thing that can be scanned actually costs money. The number, and I don't know if you can see that, it says ISBN on that. That costs money. The ISBN is actually used to create the barcode. And so guess what? Somebody is getting money for that. When you open it up, you have a copyright page, right? You have copyright. To copyright your book costs money. You have to send that off. You send it to the Library of Congress. Now, I'm going to show you how you can go ahead and copyright that yourself, because there are companies out there that will charge you $100, $199 I've even seen to have your book copyrighted. It's not necessary. But it does cost money, whether you do it yourself or you actually get somebody else to do that. So your copyright is going to cost you money. The design of your book, guess what? Now I'm going to tell you, it's not completely difficult to design the interior of your book, but you do have to know what you're doing. And I'll tell you, I have lost a lot of money because I didn't know what I was doing. So the interior design, oh my goodness, when I found out that you had to learn how to design the inside of the book, I thought that was crazy. I was like, what? I can't just send this to the book printer and they just kind of spit it out? No. All this stuff, you have to have a file for the cover. There's a file for the interior. Everything has to be put together in a computer file that is sent to the printer, who, guess what, charges you to print your book. If you want your book distributed, so let's say you want to put it on Amazon. Amazon, everybody loves to be on Amazon. There's so many other ways to sell your book as well. But Amazon is a really great vehicle to sell it. Guess what? Amazon wants a cut of your book. So, for example, if you remember, I said that when I first published my first book, He Loves Me Not, But I Love Myself. This was the second draft of that book. And this is the cover that I designed myself. The first draft, I didn't like it. But guess what? Amazon, to put this on Amazon, Amazon charges, they get 55% off of, they get a 55% discount off of your book. So whatever your retail price is, they take 55% of that. So that's why it's really, really important to understand the business side of that. If you are someone who you didn't self-publish, like you didn't create your own publishing company, and really I'm going to help you do all that in the series. If you didn't create your own publishing company and you connected with somebody else that did that for you, guess what? They get a cut. First of all, you're going to pay them to put everything together. And every time somebody buys that book, they get a cut of that too. That's not a bad thing. That's just understanding what the business side of that is. So again, when you go to setting out to write your book, understand that there is a business side to it. Now, having said that, why did I say all that to you? I did not say that to scare you. I did not say that to discourage you. I said that to empower you. That on your journey of writing your book, if you're going to pay for all of that, why put out a book that is subpar? I cannot stand it when I see books, and guess what? Bookstores, distributors, book reviewers, buyers, they could care less that you put up your own money to publish your book. And I'll tell you, there's nothing more that makes me just sick in the pit of my stomach when an author will put in all that time and you toil over it. And you're writing, and you're burning that midnight oil, as everybody says. And then you put out a book that has words scrolled across the cover. You put out a cover that's not appealing. You put out a book that has a bunch of typos inside of it. And then you expect everybody to understand, because you're a self-published author, that they should excuse the fact that your book looks a hot mess. Guess what? People don't pay for a hot mess. And if you sell your book even on Kindle, let's say you decide you want to cut the cost and you don't want to design the cover, guess what? You're going to put an image on Kindle that needs to be appealing to people. So all that stuff makes a difference. And then if you put out the book and, look, if you put out the book and it's crap, nobody will ever buy a book from you again. And I'm telling you, the word of mouth sells your book almost as much as actually paying for advertising in the New York Times. So guess what? There is a business side to what you're doing. Now here is your first assignment. You understand what the business side is. I want to ask you, do you know what your voice is? Now for me, I've written a number of books in different genres. I've written self-help books. My first book was self-help. I've written a nonfiction book, and I've also written Christian fiction. You can have different voices, but let's talk about the one book that you're planning to write. What is your voice? Are you going to write from a fiction standpoint? Is it a nonfiction book? Is it self-help? What is it? Are you writing a how-to? Are you writing or producing a tabletop photography book? Are you doing a cookbook? What is your voice? What's your angle? What is your niche? What is it that you're working on? And what are you good at? That's the next thing. If you're saying, you know what, I really want to write a book, it's something that, I always have people that say to me, Tamika, I've always wanted to do that. I just don't really know where to begin. Well, guess what? This is where you begin. So what is your voice? And you can discover your voice by figuring out what is it that you're good at. What are you passionate about? For me, when I first wrote my very first book, I wrote it because there weren't books out there about teen dating violence for teens. I was in a violent relationship when I was younger, and I found that after working in the field of domestic violence that there weren't any books that spoke to the teenager about what a violent relationship looked like and how to get out of it. And so I set out to write a book. That was that first one there. And again, it has evolved over the years. So what is it that you're good at? Is there something that is missing in the market? Are you a fiction writer that you feel like there's a story that hasn't been told? Or is there a story that has been told, but you feel like that you have a better spin on it? What is your voice? What are you good at? And I want you to brainstorm the things that you would love to write about. So that's your first assignment. What are you good at? What's your voice? What is your first book going to be about? And our next episode is going to talk about how to begin putting all of that together and how to actually set out to writing it. So this was Tamika Hall with Write the Vision, and I'm so excited for you. Can you see? Can you tell? Can you tell? Look, I told you I like to talk. I'm so excited that you're here, and I'm excited about the journey that you're embarking on. Listen, write me. Post a comment below. Subscribe to the network. Let me know what's going on with your book. I can't wait to see what you're about to come up with. And until next time, write the vision and make it plain. This is Tamika Hall. Have a blessed day.